show. This week on the show, we're back at Fox River Games and finally outside. Just such a nice day, had to come out for it. But this week in the show, we're talking about defense. Now, when you're playing Capture the Flag, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to hang back on defense and let everybody else go out on offense. Well, that's not such a bad idea, but not enough people do the defense correctly. So this week on the show, we're going to show you one good way to do it. One thing to know about your defensive strategy, defense does not win games. Now, a bad defense will lose the game for you, but a good defense will not win the game for you. The name of the game is Capture the Flag, and honestly, the flag's not going to go out and go capture itself and come back. You got to go get it, and that means sending out offense. All of the defense really does is stalling for time. And at best, all you're doing is just that. You're just stalling. And at worst, you're just playing target practice for the other team. So when you're planning your defensive strategy, you have to plan for that. You have to plan that it's basically a delay tactic. So knowing that, let's plan. Now, the first thing you want to do on defense is talk to the referee and find out how much time there is in the game. Now, it doesn't sound like such a big deal, but if you know there's 20 minutes in the game, you can plan every move that you're going to make based on that. Now, for the sake of argument, let's say that our defensive position is this one right here, this fort. Now, this is a great defensive spot because you've got a two-walled fort. The back of the fort is basically up into the Fox River, and there's only about 30, 40 feet for the other team, so they're not going to be able to maneuver around behind you. The boundary of the field is along one side of the wall over there, so they're not going to be able to sneak around you on that side either. And in front of the fort, we've got this big wide open space that they're going to have to run through in order to get at the fort. Now, you might think the best strategy is to sit inside the fort and defend from inside of here. But that's not good. If you're sitting inside of one place, the other team knows exactly where you are, and you are going to get eventually surrounded. It doesn't take a lot of time when you're all concentrated in one area to just completely get around you. If you're in one position, it makes it a lot easier for you to get surrounded and attacked. Yeah, remember the Alamo? They lost. So what we're going to do is instead of defend the fort from here, we're going to set up a perimeter. What that means is we're going to be taking several people and setting them up in a semicircle around the outside of the field. Now, the idea of this is that you're basically acting as a first line of defense. You're trying to stop the other team before they can reach long ball range to your fort. Okay, so exactly how far out should you go? Well, we've already determined that all paintball guns, with a few exceptions, shoot about the same range. So, find your maximum range. Before the game begins, with the referee's permission, take a pot shot. See how far the ball goes. That's about how far out you want to go. It'll end up being about 125 to 150 feet. So why do you want to go out 125 to 150 feet? Well, odds are if your maximum range is 125 to 150 feet, then so is the other team's maximum range. And you want to stop them before they get to that point, okay? Now that we're here in our first defensive position, get comfortable. You're going to be here for a little while until the other team gets to you. In the distance, you're probably going to hear some shooting. That's your offense meeting their offense. And you don't know who's going to win because you're back here and they're up there. So get comfortable. Say hello to a tree. Hello, tree. How you doing? We're going to become real good friends. The next thing you want to do when you're here is start looking for your fallback position. Because when you start getting surrounded and it starts getting a little hot, you want to have some place to fall back to. Again, defense is about delaying them, not necessarily stopping the other team. So keep eye on falling back, makes it harder for them to eliminate you. Now while you're up here, you want to look for where the rest of your teammates are. One thing that you want to do when you're in your defensive position is you want to set up crossing fields of fire, or crossing up if you will. The idea is that if I'm looking towards the inside of the field, I'm not going to be looking towards this half. That's the job of one of my buddies in a tree over there. Yeah, what's up? His job is to look towards the inside and make sure that I don't get surprised either. So just me, or does that guy look familiar? When you're falling back from your first position to your secondary position, you want to give yourself cover fire as you're moving. You don't have to make an accurate cover fire, just enough paint in the air so it makes the other guy duck. This is one of the ways that you can move from front, go back to back to back, successfully. I know it takes practice, but you can pick it up. See, there's a reason I've been doing all these little drills all this time. It all starts to click, doesn't it? Your secondary fallback position doesn't have to be behind something really big like this tree. You can actually just run backwards into denser cover. If you go backwards on the field a little bit, there might not be any cover for you to go into, except for running out of range of their paint. So don't be afraid to run out into the open if it's getting out of their range. Just make sure when you get back there that you have some cover to use so that you can start shooting back at them. Now, it's a lot better, not to mention a whole lot easier, if somebody gives you cover fire while you're trying to move back. It's that whole teamwork thing comes in handy, yeah. Especially if the guy who's giving you cover fire is the one who is crossing up with you. That way you can have a controlled fallback of the entire team. Alright, ready, bro? Get it up! Now here's why it's important to play the clock. You want to really know how much time it's going to take for you to get to the other side of the field, grab their flag, and come back. Because you don't win on defense, like I said. So if you whittle down their numbers pretty sufficiently, you can go out on offense, grab their flag, and come back. Or, if you know it takes them 2 minutes to get from one side of the field to the other, you can play that to your advantage. If you hold out for 18 minutes out of a 20-minute game, then you know that they can't hang the flag. There's just not enough time left on the clock. That's why you got to know how much time is left. That's where it all comes in handy. Now, defense is only one way that you can play the game of paintball, but it's not the only way. Now, I've only shown you one small defensive technique that you can use when you go play. I didn't even touch things like lone wolf tactics or force multipliers or stuff like that. But we're going to save that one for another show. Meanwhile, I got a game to continue on to, and I got one of these to take home with me. See you guys next week.